Let's continue creating some factory functions, this time for updating and for creating some resources. And so now that we already know how it works, it's really simple to just continue doing the same for updating. So exports dot update one, and let's actually go ahead and copy the code again from the tour controller. Okay, and we have a ton of files now open because we're actually changing all of them kind of at the same time. So let's copy this and paste it here. And so what we're interested in is again this part. Okay, and now of course we need to create that factory function because we don't want to return this. Instead, we want to return a function which is then in turn going to return this, right? So that's very simple. We use a simple arrow function where we pass in the model and then implicitly return whatever comes after the arrow. So all of this. All right. So just like before, let's replace the specific model with the general one and then replace all of this here with a document, or actually with doc, as we did it before. And here it's no document. And then down here where we actually send the data, it would be nice to actually give it the property name of the data that we're sending. For example, reviews, and then the document, or tours. Okay, but that's a bit too much work to implement it right now. And so I'm simply going to leave it like this, where I send again data. All right, so we sent our data here, and then the envelope in there is again going to be called data. All right, and so this should work now, because everything else is really just the same. And so we can go ahead, get rid of all of this, and simply say factory.update1, pass in a tour model, and call it a day. All right, so really simple. Next, the same thing for the users. So again, we have update user. This route is not yet implemented. And so let's simply replace all of this here with our factory function update1. All right. And so just like before, this update user function is only for administrators, okay? And only for updating data that is not the password. Because remember, whenever we use, where is that? So whenever we use find by ID and update, all the safe middleware is not run. So remember how we talked about that a couple of times. And so again, it's really important that we do not attempt to change passwords here using this update user. Okay, let's actually write that here. With this. Great. And now finally also let's put it in the review controller. All right. So exports dot update review, and then our review. So that one is very simple. Let's now go ahead and add these routes to Postman as well. So we have delete review, and let's now simply add it here as patch. And I think we also need to still implement the route in the review router. So let's do that as well. But first, I'm going to save it here in reviews. So update review. So here in the review routes, we should add the patch method and then review controller dot update review. All right. So let's take a look at one of these reviews here. Let's say this one, and update the rating to 4. Okay. So the body, set it to 4 and send it now. Okay, and as we can see, we get our new review back with the rating updated, just as expected. And again, we're going to take care of authorization a bit later in the section. All right, for now, I just want to make this work. So users, let's now also update users. Okay. So get and patch. So let's get all users here. Let's say this one. And let's change the name to administrator, which before was simply admin. All right. And so this one worked as well. Okay, so again, I'm saving all of this here in my collection because then a bit later, I can actually go ahead and create documentation from all of this collection data that we have here. So update user. Put that one here and this one here. Perfect. So updating users is now working for all of our 3 resources using the factory function. And so let's now go ahead and add the next one, which is going to be create one. So exports create one. And again, we pass in the model. And from there, we create a new function. And let me once again actually copy it from the tour here. All right. And so what we need here is only this part. So model and document. And down here, we again call it data. All right. And so that's actually it. That is our factory function. And so again, let's come here and replace it. So factory dot create one tour. So you see that our code and the controllers is now getting really clean, right? But actually, we're not going to be able to replace all of the functions that we have here with factories, because otherwise we wouldn't even need this controller file, right? We could then simply create these handlers on the fly, basically in the router file, right? And so we could basically skip this entire step of the controller file. But again, we still need it because we have some other stuff in there. For example, these methods here for getting the tour statistics or this monthly plan. And yeah, so it makes sense to actually keep this file, okay? So next up for the users, we actually do not need the create one because for creating new users, we already have the sign up function. And we cannot really replace that with a factory because it really is different from this generic one, okay? But we can do it in the review controller, okay? So basically, we want to replace this create review. Now you see that also in this one, we have some additional stuff. So we have this code that is also not in our more generic create one function. And so how can we fix that? Well, we can actually create a middleware that is going to run before the create review, okay? And so that actually also makes it a bit more decoupled. So basically this code here is then going to be in its own function and really decoupled from create review, because actually it doesn't have much to do with creating the review. It simply sets some data, right? And so let's actually call this set tour and user IDs. So request, the response is missing. Okay, and all we're going to do here is to basically set these IDs on the body and then move straight to the next middleware where then the review is actually created. All right, So before we forget it, let's then actually add this middleware. So in the review routes, it's right here in post. So review controller set tour user IDs. Okay, so yet another middleware function in this stack. Okay, anyway, let's then get rid of what we have here, because this is easily replaceable with our factory function once more. So create one, then the review, and that's it. Okay. And just to test if this still works, let's simply go ahead and create a new review on tour. Okay. And for that, we need the tour IDs. So let's also say get all tours. And now we get the user belonging is no longer existing. So let's simply go ahead and log in again. So get a new token here. And so there we go as an admin. So now get all tours. Here we go. Let's just choose one of them. So let's say the forest hiker. I think this one already has some reviews, doesn't it? Oh no, it doesn't. So this one is a good one to try it out now. And so create new review on tour. Remember, we have to change the ID here. And now we can post this review only with the rating and with the review. But I think it's actually not going to work because we're logged in as an administrator and only regular users can post reviews. Okay. All right, so let's still do this here. Mind blowing. But we're gonna get this error that I was just saying. So you do not have permissions to perform. And so we need to log in again, this time as a different user. And let's take a look at which one we have actually. Okay, so let's just use test. Or maybe test was the one with the wrong password. But let's see. Yeah. So let's experiment with test user. And this one works. And so actually we can go ahead and delete this other one because I kind of forgot his password. Okay, now in this case that's no problem. We can simply delete users as we like, since we're only in development. Okay, now we should be able to actually add this review. And indeed, here we go. Perfect. So that wraps up this lecture. All we need to do in the next one is to then create the factory functions for getting one and getting all documents of a certain resource.